Hi, welcome to our next module, The Power of Emotions. Today we're going to be looking at how we can use our emotions. So emotions drive thoughts, which drive behaviors. We are going to work this backwards, and we're going to start looking at what is a behavior. A behavior refers to the actions, reactions, or conduct of a person in response to certain situations or stimuli. So a behavior starts with a thought. If we're going to look at our thought, we have to consider our minds. And our mind has three parts: the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the subconscious mind. The unconscious mind are things such as our automatic body functions, our heart beating, our breathing, things we don't want to have to think about. The conscious mind makes up about 10% of our thoughts. That's a really small percentage. And that's because it can only process 5 to 7 bits of information at a time. And we are taking in thousands of pieces of information every minute. And so we have the logic and reasoning in our conscious mind that can only focus on those 5 to 7 little bits of information. And it's a limited space. Where our subconscious mind, on the other hand, is an unlimited amount of space. And so most of the information we take in goes in our subconscious mind that we are not aware of, that is happening all the time. But we do have access to it. And so we have things like our behaviors and our habits are here. This is why it takes weeks to months to change habits, because we have to focus on them and bring them into our conscious mind. Our reacting without thinking, our impulses are here. Feelings and emotions are in our subconscious. Life experiences are stored here. Biases are stored here. Things that we want to have access to, but it takes an intentional process in order to bring them into our conscious mind. So what is a thought? A thought is an idea or opinion. If it's produced by thinking, it's in our conscious mind. If it's an idea or opinion that occurs suddenly in the mind, that's our subconscious and our unconscious. So these thoughts, whether they're produced subconsciously or unconsciously, or consciously, are from our past experiences, knowledge, and emotions. So remember, experiences and emotions reside in our subconscious, and our knowledge is the access to them. So gaining knowledge about our experiences and emotions is the link to our behavior. And if we break that down to an emotion, emotions are complex reaction patterns involving experiences, behavioral patterns, and physiological elements. So how you feel them, your gut, your heart, your tense muscles, those are the physiological elements by which a person attempts to deal with significant matter or events. So again, this is our attempt when something is significant to us. So a little more basically, an emotion is determined by previous experiences with that emotion and the significance of the event. So for an example, if an experience involved threat, physical or emotional harm, fear is likely to be the experienced emotion. That would drive the thought to respond for fight, flight, freeze. So an example of this could be that you get bit by a dog. And all of a sudden, the next time you see a dog, you get a fear response. Your heart races, or your mind races, or your gut and your muscles tense up. And so then you run away. That might be good, that might be bad. But if it becomes that every time you see a dog, you have fear and you don't want that to happen, you need to be able to do something about it. This also could happen when we experience things like disapproval. And then shame is the generated experience. So this could be something like you fail a test at school and your parents were disappointed when you came home. And so then you felt ashamed. So every time you get a bad grade or you fail a test, it could become connected to shame. That could turn into anytime you fail at work or you get passed up on a project, it turns to shame. And that experience leads to that emotion being connected to a thought and driving your behaviors. And so when we look at the power of emotion, again, every second our brain receives thousands of pieces of data. And remember that conscious mind can only take 5 to 7 bits of information at a time. So we have the internal signals that our body uses. Our body feels an emotion before we're aware of it. It feels the physiological pieces and it starts asking, are we okay? Do we need something? Do we need to do something? And this process is what produces the perceived emotion. So again, emotions drive thoughts, which drive behaviors. And the beauty of this is both psychology and theology suggest that emotions are not hardwired reactions, but predictions that your brain makes. So when you see the dog, it predicts fear. And you can rewire that. So if it's true that they're just predictions, this means they're flexible, they're trainable, and we can reframe them. To dig a little deeper, we do see this in Scripture. There are things that we are told that we can do in order to reframe our feelings. So anxious or afraid can become peace. John 14:27 says that. Peace I leave you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. God is not saying, Jesus is not saying that you are never to feel afraid or feel troubled. He's saying you have access to peace. You can learn to use those feelings to get to a place of peace. 2 Timothy 1:7, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Fear can become power and love. He does not say you're never going to feel timid, you're never going to feel afraid, but you have access to power, love, and self-discipline. Same thing in Joshua 1:9. Being frightened or dismayed can be turned to strong and courageous. Not that you will never feel them, but that you have access to other reactions to them that lead to different emotions. So how do we start doing this? How do we start using the power of our emotions? Simply by naming your emotion, you can change how your brain processes it. This is called affect labeling. Things like I feel disappointed, or I feel anxious, or I feel afraid. Using the feelings wheel, being able to really dig down to what that feeling is, brings the subconscious into the conscious. It's that process we talked about of what to do with a negative emotion. Ask what you felt, acknowledge where it's coming from, and be aware of how you're feeling or how you're reacting. And is that the reaction you want when you feel that emotion? Do I want to feel afraid every time I see a dog? Or can I acknowledge that I was bit by a dog? It was scary, and so I feel afraid when I see a dog, but every dog is not going to bite me. And so we can learn to reframe these by using everything that we've talked about. Simply naming your emotions is the first step to using the power of them. Great job. I look forward to seeing you next time.